The fall has already begun. One by one, the most iconic motorcycle brands in America are pulling out, shutting down, or collapsing under the weight of neglect. What was once the soundtrack of freedom, the roar of engines on open highways, is now fading into silence. If you've ever owned one of these machines, or dreamed of riding one, you need to know the truth. Because when dealerships vanish and parts dry up, it won't just cost you money. It could cost you your future on the road. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal the 5 motorcycle brands saying goodbye to America. By the end of this countdown, you'll understand how deep the collapse really goes, and why the name at number 1 proves that no brand, no matter how iconic, is safe. Number 5. Suzuki. For generations, this brand was the quiet backbone of American motorcycling. It never shouted for attention, yet its machines carried riders from coast to coast, down back roads, and through small-town streets where reliability mattered more than style. Fathers passed them down to sons, neighbors fixed them in home garages, and countless first-time riders felt freedom for the very first time on one of these bikes. But in 2025, that once steady heartbeat has grown faint. The name that symbolized honest value and no-nonsense dependability now risks becoming a memory. Once celebrated for being the working man's companion, it has slipped into the background as other manufacturers push ahead with bold designs, advanced features, and wider dealer networks. What was once the go-to choice for riders who wanted miles without headaches now stands on uncertain ground, admired in hindsight, but too often overlooked in the present. The foundation of this brand in the United States was built on accessibility. Unlike the more expensive European competitors or the heritage-heavy American cruisers, it gave riders a machine that combined affordability with just enough performance to satisfy both commuters and weekend tourers. Generations of younger riders started with one, cutting their teeth on sport models before stepping up to bigger machines. Older riders found the cruisers a reliable partner, machines that asked for little but gave plenty in return. Through the 1970s and 1980s, the logo was everywhere, a familiar presence that helped shape the American riding landscape. For many, the first open road experience came astride one of these motorcycles. Yet over time, the very traits that made this brand strong became weaknesses. A conservative approach to design meant many models went unchanged for years, relying on proven platforms instead of bold innovations. While this kept costs down, it also created an image of stagnation. Competitors pushed forward with advanced electronics, rider aids, and modern styling, leaving these motorcycles looking dated in comparison. In an industry where perception drives sales, that was a heavy blow. Riders want machines that feel alive and current, not ones that appear locked in the past. Another critical issue has been the shrinking dealer network. Once present in towns across America, dealerships have thinned, making it harder for riders to find new models, order parts, or get timely service. For a rider in a rural area, this means a long drive just to keep the bike on the road. Support matters as much as performance, and when that support fades, confidence in the brand fades with it. Without a strong footprint, even the most dependable machine becomes a harder sell. The decision to step away from global racing was also a turning point. For decades, racing success reinforced the brand's reputation as a serious competitor. Victories in MGPT and endurance events reminded riders that the machines in the showroom shared DNA with those on the track. When the company withdrew in 2022, it sent a signal that the motorcycle division was no longer a top priority. For enthusiasts who value performance heritage, that retreat was more than symbolic. It raised doubts about long-term commitment. Today, older American riders remember the name fondly. They remember the honest value, the straightforward engineering, and the feeling of getting more than what they paid for. But nostalgia alone cannot sustain a brand. Without renewed investment in design, marketing, and dealerships, the motorcycles risk being overlooked by new generations who never experienced that legacy firsthand. Practical riders looking for reliability might still find it here, but the broader market often chooses brands that feel more alive, more present, and more aggressive in courting new buyers. The truth is clear. This brand still builds motorcycles, still maintains a reputation for dependable engines, and still carries a name recognized across the globe. But recognition without relevance is a dangerous place to be. In America, where competition is fierce and loyalty is earned with every mile, the ground is slipping beneath its wheels. The motorcycles remain on the map, but the road ahead looks uncertain, and unless priorities shift, this once proud presence may quietly fade from the American landscape. The next entry shows how even heritage and character cannot shield a brand from the same fate. If you're still with me, you care about the truth behind these disappearing motorcycles. Show your support by hitting subscribe and joining thousands of riders who refuse to be left in the dark. Let us know in the comments which brand is letting you down the most in 2025. We love to know. Number 4. Moto Guzzi. Across decades of motorcycling history, few emblems have carried the same weight of romance and identity as the soaring eagle. This Italian mark built its reputation not by chasing sales figures, but by crafting motorcycles that carried a spirit all their own. Each machine was designed with character, appealing to riders who crave tradition, craftsmanship, and individuality over mass-market conformity. It was never about being the most common choice on the road. It was about being the most meaningful. The brand's motorcycles became rolling statements of heritage, a reminder that two wheels could still stir the soul without needing to follow the crowd. Today, however, that legacy faces a crossroads. While the passion remains, its presence in America has thinned, leaving only loyalists to keep the flame alive while the wider market moves quickly past. The story of this Italian mark began in the early 1920s along the shores of Lake Como. Three friends, bound by their service in the military and their shared vision of motorcycling, laid the foundation for what would become one of the oldest continuously operating motorcycle brands in the world. Through the decades, the bikes earned respect not only for their unique transverse V-twin engines, but also for their unmistakable sound and balanced handling. Riders appreciated that these machines were more than transportation. They were an identity, a connection to a culture that prized individuality. Owning one meant stepping outside the mainstream and joining a smaller, devoted brotherhood of enthusiasts. Despite that legacy, the modern American presence of this brand has diminished. Dealerships that once dotted select regions of the country have grown scarce, leaving many riders without local support. Service networks are thin, and parts availability often requires patience. While these challenges may be acceptable to the most dedicated fans, they create barriers for new customers who want confidence in long-term ownership. A motorcycle may offer style and character, but without convenient access to maintenance and parts, it becomes a difficult choice for practical riders. For many, that lack of support overshadows the charm of the ride itself. Design choices have also slowed its appeal in the United States. While rivals pursued aggressive updates with advanced rider aids, traction control, and refined electronics, this brand maintained a cautious pace. The timeless styling and traditional mechanical feel drew applause from purists, but to younger riders walking into showrooms, the bike sometimes looked and felt dated. In a competitive environment where modern technology increasingly shapes buying decisions, standing still can be as dangerous as moving backward. For older riders who remember the glory days, the deliberate pace may be reassuring. For the next generation, it can feel like neglect. There is also the challenge of market positioning. Larger parent ownership has spread its resources across multiple brands, with scooters and sport-focused machines often taking priority. In this hierarchy, the Eagle badge receives less investment, leaving it to rely heavily on heritage rather than innovation. Without dedicated financial muscle, efforts to modernize production or expand dealerships in the United States have moved slowly. Announcements of factory upgrades in Italy show some commitment, but on the American side, the visibility remains faint. In a land dominated by heavy cruisers and long-haul touring machines, niche placement becomes even more precarious. Yet the loyalty of the rider base remains remarkable. Even today, those who swing a leg over these machines speak of them with reverence. The transverse V-twin is described as more than just an engine, it is a heartbeat. The comfort of the seating, The low-end torque and the steady rhythm of the ride create a bond between man and machine that is hard to replicate. These qualities keep the brand alive, even as its American footprint shrinks. But passion alone cannot secure survival. Without clear vision and stronger commitment, the risk is that the Eagle will be admired in memory more than seen on the road. As we look at its future, the question becomes whether heritage is enough. This motorcycle still has the qualities that set it apart, from soulful performance to a name steeped in history. What it lacks is scale, presence, and the resources to compete head-to-head in the United States market. Unless its leadership strengthens the dealer network and commits to aggressive modernization, the Eagle could continue its quiet descent. For older riders, that would be more than a business failure. It would be the loss of a symbol of independence and European pride that once brought something truly unique to American highways. The next entry reveals another brand with prestige, exclusivity, and undeniable history, yet one that also struggles to maintain its ground across the Atlantic. Confidence starts with fit and protection. Grab the entry-level gear I trust, linked below. Number 3. MV Agusta. Among the storied names of European motorcycling, few ever captured hearts quite like this Italian legend. It stood as a symbol of speed and elegance, celebrated for machines that blurred the line between raw performance and rolling artwork. Every curve of its frames and every roar from its engines spoke of exclusivity, not mass production. To own one was to claim a piece of prestige, a motorcycle crafted for passion rather than practicality. Decade after decade, it remained a mark of refinement and racing triumph, admired as much for its beauty as for its victories. Yet in today's American market, that aura of artistry faces an uphill battle. Without broader support and presence, what was once a crown jewel of motorcycling risks being admired more in memory than experienced on the open road. Born after the Second World War from an aircraft maker's survival, this company quickly became a racing powerhouse. Through the 1950s and 60s, it dominated world championships, with legendary riders securing victories. Its red and silver machines embodied supremacy, blending speed and beauty in a way no rival matched. However, success on the racetrack did not guarantee financial stability. Unlike the Japanese giants or the American cruiser makers, this brand never embraced mass production. The bikes were expensive, exclusive, and built in relatively small numbers. That exclusivity fueled desire, but it also left the company vulnerable whenever economic conditions tightened. Without large-scale sales to steady the books, the business side of the operation was often fragile. Ownership changed hands multiple times, with each new investor promising stability but rarely delivering it for long. In the American market, that fragility has been especially clear. Riders who admire the style and performance often face long waits for parts or limited dealer access. When something breaks, it is not always as simple as rolling into the nearest shop. That scarcity makes the brand more of a dream than a practical choice for many riders. Collectors and enthusiasts may still chase the allure, but for the average American rider, confidence in long-term support weighs heavily. A motorcycle can be exotic, but it still needs to be serviceable. Even with those challenges, the mystique remains strong. The design language of these machines is unmistakable, blending sharp lines, sculpted frames, and details that make them stand out in any showroom. For those who crave individuality, it offers something that cannot be mistaken for anything else. The performance figures are equally impressive, proving that the company still knows how to build a machine worthy of its racing heritage. Yet, the tension between artistry and accessibility is where the struggle continues. Without a broad dealer network, it risks being admired more than actually ridden. In recent years, new partnerships and ownership changes once again promised stability. Financial groups and European motorcycle conglomerates stepped in, seeking to preserve the brand while leveraging its reputation. For longtime fans, these moves provided hope, but also raised questions. Would the unique identity be preserved, or would the company be absorbed and reshaped beyond recognition? Riders loyal to the name want to see it thrive on its own terms, not just as a badge under another corporate umbrella. The uncertainty of direction continues to weigh heavily on its American prospects. For older riders in the United States, the name still carries weight. They remember the dominance on the track, the prestige of owning something rare, and the thrill of hearing one roar down the road. But memory cannot carry sales forever. Without a stronger commitment to infrastructure, expansion, and consistent support, the brand risks becoming little more than a boutique presence admired in magazines and online videos rather than lived on the highways of America. Passion has kept it alive, but passion must now be matched with practicality. The fate of this Italian legend in the American market remains uncertain. It continues to build motorcycles that inspire admiration, but survival requires more than admiration alone. Unless the commitment to the United States grows stronger, the brand may one day be remembered primarily for what it achieved in the past, rather than what it continues to build today. The next entry shows that even the most iconic American name is not immune to these same forces of change. Number 2. Indian motorcycles. Deep in the roots of American motorcycling lies a brand whose story is both inspiring and turbulent. Once seen as a true rival to Harley-Davidson, it carried the weight of national pride, roaring across racetracks and highways as a symbol of American grit. From its earliest days in the 1900s, it gave soldiers, racers, and working men a machine they could trust, shaping its reputation as more than just a motorcycle maker. It was a piece of American identity. Through triumphs and collapses, through bankruptcies and revivals, it has always found a way back, fueled by loyal riders who believe in its spirit. Yet even with fresh investment and modern designs, its future in the United States remains uncertain. With fewer dealerships and a constant tug-of-war between honoring tradition and chasing innovation, the brand now walks a thin line, balancing its proud history against the demands of a changing generation of riders. The roots of this brand stretch back to the early 1900s, when it first entered the scene in Springfield, Massachusetts. For years, it stood shoulder to shoulder with Harley-Davidson, earning respect through speed, reliability, and patriotic pride. Its motorcycles were used by the military, trusted by police departments, and celebrated by racers who wanted dependable performance. By the 1940s, however, financial strain began to pull it under, and what followed was a long series of bankruptcies, failed revivals, and lost opportunities. By the end of the 20th century, many believed the name would remain nothing more than a memory. Everything changed in the early 2010s when Polaris Industries stepped in. With serious investment, modern engineering, and a clear strategy, the company brought the brand roaring back into American dealerships. Riders who had longed for a true alternative to Harley-Davidson suddenly had a choice. The motorcycles looked bold and carried unmistakable American styling, while offering smoother performance and modern reliability. For many older riders, it felt like a revival of something long overdue, and dealerships reported a fresh wave of interest. It was not just a resurrection of a name, but a chance to compete head-on with the biggest cruiser builder in the world. Yet, even with that revival, problems have remained. The dealer network has always been smaller compared to Harley-Davidson's massive footprint, and in practical terms, that has meant fewer locations for service, parts, and purchasing. In the world of motorcycles, a rider's confidence often depends not just on horsepower, but on knowing that help is nearby. When dealerships are few and far between, the convenience factor pushes many buyers toward other brands. Riders may admire the style, but they hesitate to commit if support feels uncertain. Another challenge lies in identity. Loyal enthusiasts love the heritage, but newer riders sometimes struggle to connect with it. The company has tried to modernize with new styling and updated features, but in doing so, it risks losing the very traditions that made it appealing to older generations. A prime example came when branding elements that had defined the look for decades were phased out. To some, it felt like progress, but to others, it felt like betrayal of the brand's soul. Online forums and rider groups filled with debate, showing that balancing tradition and evolution is not an easy task. Culturally, This brand symbolized choice, giving riders an alternative while preserving American character. Yet it struggles to capture younger buyers seeking versatility, lighter weight, and modern technology. Heavy cruisers appeal mainly to aging riders, and without bridging generations, its long-term future in the United States grows increasingly uncertain. Even with these struggles, the motorcycles remain powerful, reliable, and deeply American. They offer the comfort and torque that older riders value, with touring models capable of eating up highway miles and cruisers built for local pride. The craftsmanship is evident, the heritage undeniable, and the desire to compete is clear. But these qualities must be matched with growth in reach, service, and connection to new generations if the brand hopes to thrive in a market that is more competitive than ever. For many seasoned riders, seeing this company endure matters deeply. It represents a living link to the earliest days of American motorcycling, proof that heritage can still matter in a world driven by innovation. But nostalgia cannot sell motorcycles on its own. Unless the challenges of limited dealerships, shifting identity, and generational appeal are addressed, the risk is that this proud name could once again slide into decline. The next and final entry on this list shows that even the strongest and most recognizable American motorcycle brand is not immune to the same pressures threatening its survival. Before we close, remember this isn't just about brands. It's about protecting your freedom on the road. Subscribe, share this video with a fellow rider, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Together we keep the spirit of American motorcycling alive. Number 1. Harley-Davidson. For countless riders across the country, this brand has never been just a motorcycle. It has been a way of life. Its machines became the soundtrack of the American highway, carrying with them the thunder of V-twin engines and the promise of unfiltered freedom. Chrome gleamed in the sun, leather creaked on the saddle, and the road stretched endlessly ahead, turning every journey into a statement of independence. Over more than a century, it grew beyond being a company into a culture, a brotherhood that connected riders from small towns to big cities under a single identity. Yet in 2025, the weight of that history has become both its strength and its struggle. Heritage keeps loyal riders fiercely devoted, but the rising costs, aging core audience, and reluctance to fully embrace change threaten to leave the brand standing still while the industry moves forward. Its legacy is unmatched, but its future will depend on whether it can adapt without losing the soul that made it legendary. The story of the company began in Milwaukee in the early 1900s when a group of young men built a motorized bicycle in a small shed. From those modest beginnings came the largest American motorcycle manufacturer and a company that would shape culture both on and off the road. By the 1920s, police departments, military units, and working-class riders alike trusted its motorcycles for strength and reliability. By the post-war years, the sound of its V-twin engines became the heartbeat of an entire generation of riders who craved the open road and the independence that came with it. Over time, its motorcycles became more than machines. They became part of America's cultural identity. But in 2025, the challenge facing the company is not recognition, it is relevance. Prices have steadily climbed, pulling its motorcycles out of reach for the very working-class riders who once made them icons. When an entry-level cruiser starts near $22,000, the younger generation sees the machines as unattainable. This shift has changed the image of the motorcycles from everyday freedom to luxury goods. For riders who came of age in the 1970s and 1980s, the transformation is difficult to reconcile. They remember a time when saving for a year or two could put them on a saddle. Today, the costs stretch far higher, making new ownership feel out of reach. Another challenge is generational appeal. The classic leather vests, patches, and thunder of the V-twin once represented rebellion. To younger riders, that culture often feels like it belongs to their fathers or grandfathers. They want versatility, lighter machines, and advanced technology, while the company has built its reputation on tradition and consistency. That loyalty to heritage keeps longtime riders loyal, but it also slows adaptation in a fast-changing market. While the company has made attempts with lighter cruisers and even electric motorcycles, those efforts remain small compared to the heavy touring machines that dominate its lineup. Competition adds further pressure. Japanese and European manufacturers continue to offer motorcycles that combine performance, technology, and affordability. Riders looking for value and modern features often turn to alternatives that deliver traction control, multiple ride modes, and advanced suspension at lower prices. Meanwhile, the American heavyweight motorcycles rely heavily on their heritage appeal. For some, that is enough. For others, it signals resistance to change. In a world where brand loyalty is harder to secure, standing still can be dangerous. Despite challenges, the brand's strength endures. Its vast dealer network spans the nation, ensuring access and service few can rival. More than motorcycles, it nurtures a community through rallies, clubs, and traditions that bond riders for life. This brotherhood sustains loyalty, keeping sales alive even as younger generations view the brand with hesitation and cautious interest. For older American riders, the name still means more than just a motorcycle. It is the roar of a V-twin echoing through a canyon. It is the comfort of a heavyweight cruiser carrying them across state lines. It is the pride of riding a machine that tells the world they are part of something bigger. That emotional bond keeps the company alive, but it cannot sustain it forever. Without new buyers stepping in, the community will age, and the presence on American highways will thin. The future of the company rests on its ability to adapt without abandoning its soul. If it can balance heritage with innovation and price with accessibility, it will remain the symbol of American motorcycling. If not, its legacy may outshine its future. For now, it continues to stand tall, but the road ahead will test its resolve more than any ride before. This final entry proves that even the most iconic motorcycle brand in America is not immune to the forces reshaping the industry. The road has always been more than pavement and paint. It is memory, freedom, and identity. These brands shaped the rides of our fathers and grandfathers, and now many face an uncertain tomorrow. But their stories do not end here. They live on in the miles we ride, the communities we build, and the voices we raise. If these machines mean something to you, don't let their legacy fade. Subscribe, share this video, and keep the conversation in the comments below alive, because the open road is stronger when riders stand together, refusing to let history slip silently away.